All good, all good.
Welcome to Unified Media, Dropping Gems Podcast. Let's get it.
Unified Media Podcast, Season 4, Episode 12, Blue Collar Crime and the Judicial System. We begin this episode with touching base on this specific topic. Our discussion will revolve around the inside scoop from a very special guest today, who not only has insight, first experience on what occurred corruptly throughout her career, whether it be the police departments, lawyers, prison systems, and so much more. Like and share this video to those who will find this information useful. Tune into the show once a week, every Sunday, a little after 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live on YouTube, where we have raw, uncut, open discussions that can range with insightful and educational information across the board. Other episodes will include past and current events, trending topics, conspiracies, personal journey, and so much more. We also invite special guests like today to shed light on who they are, what professional industry they are in. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, email dropingemspodcast@gmail.com with your name, business, industry, social media info, and brief bio. Hosted by yours truly, JL The Truth, ONTL Dewan, and of course, our third C, Survival Skills. Support the show by subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell. Today's special guest is no other than Clono Queen. She has worked for the state of Florida for over 15 years. Started off as a prison guard, a CO, and was last 6 years as an investigator for the Office of the Inspector General. And from 2001 to 2005, the Queen was an undercover law enforcement officer. If there's anybody else that can give us this game on what happens behind the scenes when it comes to blue collar crime and the judicial system, you probably wouldn't have nobody else but Miss Clono Queen. Thank you for being here today, Miss Clono Queen. How you doing?
Thank you.
Okay. Good. Thank y'all for having me.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. So,
Excuse me.
so today, I met you on Favorite, and our conversations were very unique, to say the least. All things life, and then we got into career talk. And I want to assume now you're retired, correct?
Yes.
So you
I
are
retired early. I retired early to stay home and take care of my kids.
So you wanted to retire early to take care of the family.
Yes.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing to do. That's always amazing. That's always amazing. First, I want to say thank you for your service. For being not only a mother, a nurturer, but also a protector of our country. So
Community.
Amazing thing. Not everybody can do that. I don't think everybody has the heart or the ability, the personality, the know-how, the grit to do what you have done. That's why I tip my hat off to everybody who's in the military, protecting and, putting their life on the line. It's a very, very
That's a serious
honorable, very, very honorable thing. Mm-hmm. So we thank you for your service, Queen. And before we get into the nature of the particular article you sent me, I think that's most recent, that you're aware of, and some of the things that you have personally experienced, I wanted to get into the Charlie Kirk discussion and topic. And I wanted to get each of your insights, starting with Miss Johnson. First, how do you feel about Charlie Kirk? And second, why was he killed?
First of all, for me, I followed him for a long time, about 10 years, because not for politics, but for the apologetics side of it. I homeschool. I've got 3 sons, and he was really good at public speaking. And I just use him for, like, as an example. He explained controversial, like, Christian topics really well, and I wanted my kids to be able to answer difficult questions if they were asked. So that's why I followed him. It wasn't for politics; it was for the apologetics side of it.
Interesting, interesting. And do you have any opinion on why he may have been killed?
I mean, I think that I mean, unfortunately, I see a lot of, honestly, you hear there people always talking about gun control, but it's like the ones who are saying that are the ones who are doing the killing.
Mm,
So I think that he was very conservative, and that makes them a target.
mm,
Mm.
interesting.
He spoke the truth, but people, the truth is divisive.
Interesting perspective. Survival. Same notion, Bob. Did you follow Kirk at all? Did you know about his ways? How do you feel about that particular situation?
So personally, I didn't know Kirk, never followed him, didn't know anything about him. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Didn't know anything about him. And next thing I know, I ended up looking at my Facebook, started looking at my Facebook feed. And when I looked at it, I was looking at how many of my own race, I'm talking about my own race, my own friends, how some people are laughing at this. They're
Mm,
find this as this is like it's comical. I was like, regardless of how you will feel, whether it's theoretical, whether it's theological, religious, or political, we're all God's children.
mm,
A life was taken on camera.
yeah,
Regardless of race, a life was taken on camera. And for
yeah.
someone to think that that is okay, that is just that's sickening.
Mm,
And that's it just made me realize I was like, look, there's a couple of people that may hate me for saying that, but I was like, look, unfollow me now. I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you, unfollow me because I'm like, for me to see that people are okay with like, oh man, that's what Buddy get. That's why he got shot because he was talking. I'm like, bro, regardless of how you all look at it, this man was murdered in cold blood on TV.
mm,
And for people to say, like, oh man, it is what it is. No, it's not. It is what it is.
mm,
Um, when I heard that, it was very sickening to me. It was very upsetful because I was like, this was this man's opinion. I was like, regardless of how people may felt, I was like, there was some things I agreed with Charlie was saying, and there's some things I didn't agree with Charlie was saying. Like, okay, for example, he was talking about what comes to dating. Some people may not like this, but he was saying the man should always fit the bill. If you
mm,
taking them out on a date or not, I was like, okay, I can go ahead and resonate with that. Some
mm,
people wouldn't like that. When he was talking about gun control, some people didn't like that, some people did. And that's why I was like, it's really an opinion. So if you're telling me that people can kill us just because of an opinion, I thought we lived in a state of the freedom of speech. I guess we don't now.
yeah. And I'm glad you put it that way, sir, and you received it that way. Because I didn't get to talk to too many people about it in my
Mhm.
personal life. But I felt the same way, honestly. Don't know enough about him to defend his discussions or
Right.
what was his personal opinion, but just seeing what I saw as a human being, I thought was absolutely atrocious. It was disgusting. I don't think anybody deserves to be killed at all for your opinion. If that's the
Absolutely.
case, all of us should be dead. You know, Aki. Seeing what you saw. Uh, is there anything that you can say on why he may have been killed?
Um, I'll say it. The why I can't really speak to as a solidified why. I can only give a suggestive opinion about it and what it could be. Um, I've seen a comment on social media where they said that for his community and the people who followed him, he was like their Malcolm King, you know what I'm saying,
Mm.
or their MLK and things of that nature. So he represented a perspective in life, not only to, solidify or make it feel like, hey, this makes sense to me because of my upbringing or where I come from, but more so just shedding light on the difference of opinion, where there are things that can factor into a person's success or failure. I don't know too much about him. I've only seen a few of his debates, and a lot of his debates were unfortunately debates when he was speaking about my community or our community, you know what I'm saying, the Americans, the Black Americans. So, there were certain things that I could agree with him in when it comes down to that. And then there's other things that, although he has a point, it's not everybody's situation, because a lot of us do come from certain backgrounds that unfortunately there is some type of blockage. We are being targeted in certain ways. It's not everybody, and it's not always the same person or the same stereotype, but it is sometimes a little difficult for us to get past the goalpost if the goalpost keeps moving. Okay,
Yeah.
so that makes sense. But again, I'm not agreeing with him saying that, but that can be used as an excuse, because if you do, you show forth your work and things like that. I can attest firsthand that regardless of how good I am, I still get targeted in a way where they don't want me to succeed because of how good I am, and because of being so good at something can take them in their position away. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Because it's more fitting. And I've been in that type of situation where I got held back on getting a position because I was so good and qualified that I was more liked because of my personality than the other person, but that other person enjoyed that power and liked it enough to where it was abusive in a sense, and they didn't want to give that up. And I was
Mm.
okay. Hey, you know what? If that's how you feel, okay, I don't even want to be at war with you, because obviously you have something against me and you don't want to see me, rather than acknowledging my personality of assisting. My personality is a lot of an assistant. Like, I
Right.
can assist with people in a lot of things and help magnify the situation rather than try to take it over and control myself. You know what I'm saying? So, but again, I feel like he was used as a pawn, like a lot of us are used as a pawn in order to gain a reaction from the mass and to
Oh,
get
absolutely.
controversial conversations happening because of the differences of opinion. And then I also feel like too, because how it was presented on his demise, that right there was just a notion for people to see, how people really felt. Like, you have a lot, like you said, serve a lot of people in our community laughing at it, because it was kind of what he was speaking against in a negative sense towards our community. They're looking at it as a revenge thing. Me personally, I still don't feel like that in any of those things are necessary. However, I know that there's a higher source that is allowing us to be, seeing and watching these things, so it can become as an example of what we can do or what we can't do, or not necessarily what we can't do, or what we can be and what we can choose not to be, right? And for him and his life and the way he built it, in the way he built it up, I still don't feel that that was right to sit there and laugh at something like that or make fun of it, because it was something that happened. But at the same time, from our people's perspective, you got to look at how many times they show our people in the same situation and
Yeah.
nobody gets in trouble for it. So you got to understand from that type of perspective. Not saying
Yep.
it's right or wrong. What I'm
Mhm.
saying is, from that type of perspective, you should be knowing that that's going to be a reaction. Like, that
Right.
Mhm.
that's a natural human reaction. anyway. It doesn't matter. We all deal with the 7 deadly sins, and we all have those oppositions in us daily that are ready to, come out and display themselves when it's time. So you just got to know how to navigate that, understand them, and recognize them, and then do the exact opposite. But that's my take on that. I don't agree that was a good thing, but him going out like that definitely was something that was meant to happen at that capacity, so we can come to these type of conversations and really see as a humanity, as a human, how we are really destroyed here.
When quick side note, when did Charlie get killed? When was he shot?
Thursday.
Thursday.
The 10th.
I believe the 10th.
Was that the 10th?
Yeah.
Right
No,
before,
it was Wednesday. Sorry, it was Wednesday, the 10th.
right
Okay.
before September 11th.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it was a trigger. For me, I feel like that was a trigger because no one was talking about anything like 9/11. I don't know, call it conspiracy or not, but I felt like that was like some type of turning point to get us to like, oh my God, like we have something to talk about again. And so anytime when I feel that they do something like this is to control a narrative to get you to pay attention to something else that's going on. Now, this is the big talk of the town, which everybody's focused on. So there's something that's happening that's redirecting us because it's now like, damn, everybody's looking over here, everybody's looking over here, but there's something happening that you don't see. So I was like, yeah, I've always said that.
Well, I will say this. And I don't get like into all conspiracy theories. But sometimes I do look at some of them if they kind of look suspicious, because sometimes conspiracy theories is really just good thinking. Like people are just thinking deeper and like it is real and things are happening. But there is people, and I do know that he did this. He had an interview not that long ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, with a guy from Israel. And in that interview, he was kind of changing. The guy was kind of changing his thinking on the Israeli people, and was kind of like telling him that so that Israel was. I didn't see the episode. I need to watch it. But I did see like a short of it, and he was kind of like thinking, because the guy was trying to say to him that for years people in Israel were low key like after America. And so he, of course, has always been for Israel, but like he started kind of talking about it, and because he started looking into it more, and he had that conversation. So even I know that like Candace Owens kind of like has been, everybody's like she's off her rocker now, but like even I just saw right when we were waiting to come on a new thing, a post that she made saying that he had found out information and it's fixing to all come out. Well, I already knew he had that interview with that man from Israel. And so I don't know, like they're saying that there is something to that they were trying to silence him because he was fixing to talk about like this whole thing with some that like there was actually bad people in the Israeli government that had bad intentions, and not all of them. I'm not saying all of them because I support Israel or whatever. The guy was saying that there are people that are bad and they have bad motives. Yeah. And they're just saying that they didn't want him to open up that whole can of worms for people to start looking into it.
Right.
Crazy. And typically that's normally what happens, right? You have someone, in a position of I don't want to say, I want to say more so influence.
Yeah, he has influence,
power because of influence.
Yeah,
not quite power, because that's just perception. Power is just perception, right? We're talking about the physicality of power, but the power of influence. So they didn't want him to shed light on this particular situation with the Israeli government, and anything that's detrimental to the ones that are puppeteering the world, they find is a risk, and they're not willing to risk anything at all costs, even if it means taking a life, spending money to take a life. I even saw something, and I don't know if you guys came across this, but have you guys seen how they first captured it? They first capture an older gentleman, release him because they have no proof that it was him. So they have
Well,
no.
he said, because he said he done it, like immediately. He was saying he did it,
Right.
but he was lying.
But then you see the video of of a fucking ninja coming across the screen on top of a roof, hopping off of the roof, and then disappearing into the day. And then you see a screenshot of a young man who doesn't even look like the new guy that they just captured recently. When they put, when they try to put the nose work, the eyes, the ears, they put it side by side.
Yeah.
And the guy that they have caught is still not quite the guy, I guess, based on appearance. So anything like you guys say to just kind of stir up and start a discussion to revert away from what's really happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Which is,
I just think it's sad because he was, I just, the thing that gets me is nobody deserves that, man. Like, or them for, but the even whatever happened, whether it's a bigger conspiracy,
Right.
like they're saying, because what he was going to talk about was like a connection between a bunch of governments working with them and the corruption, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, or what I will talk about. So, and that's what he was uncovering. So, but he was, I don't know, well, you see response in most part. Like he was a guy that was like, I mean, come on, like his kids were sitting there and his wife, like right in front of it.
terrible.
I mean, and how awful. I didn't even, when I looked at it, I mean, I was watching it and my son was driving and I couldn't believe it. But then I saw another angle and I'm like, I've seen this. I did homicide investigations. I'm like, I can handle this stuff, but I wished I could unsee it because it was like that bad. I was like, that's horrible. Like,
horrible.
I was kind of traumatized. I wasn't mentally prepared for it.
Horrible. When what I compare it to just from a visual standpoint, and is the JFK. The JFK, because when you watch the nature of the JFK video, I mean, the image, it's still embedded in my mind. His brain explodes.
Yeah.
Half of the shit hanging out. Wife next to him, crying.
Picking it up.
Right? She grabs him to cover him up and then screams out. She screams out, they actually did it. They did it. They finally did it. So she already knew and had an inclination of who possibly killed her husband. And then you see the nature of Charlie Kirk's video. When my wife showed it to me, it was like, it wasn't even a split decision. I told her, I said, I never want to watch that again. I never want to see that again.
Me too. Me too.
I told her like that. I felt so disgusted. I was like, turn that shit off. Don't even replay it. Put something else on. And then I started putting on something on television. But I want to go into the nature of this. You have been for the state of Florida, worked for the state of Florida for over 15 years. You started off as a correctional officer. What was it? First, let's start off with correction as a correctional officer, because that's how you started. What was it that you saw as a CEO that was also like, we're gonna take two approaches here. What was the things that made you uneasy as a correctional officer that you saw, and then what gave you the instance to say, all right, now I'm gonna go into this field within the confines of this work. Let's start there.
Okay. Well, so I went into the military when I was 17 and I got out when I was 19. where I'm from, in Florida, it's very rural. There's really not any jobs. There's prisons. And so everyone they're farmers, correctional officers, they work for the prison system, because that's pretty much what's there. And so naturally, I guess I'm the type of person, like everything I've ever done has been some type of service, like I'm a helper. I mean, I want to make a difference, I guess. I mean, so I went into, my whole goal was to be in law enforcement. But I was starting as a prison guard because I wanted a job, and I was just going to be a correctional officer and then take the rest of my schooling to become a law enforcement officer. Well, things happen. Your plans don't always work out exactly the way you want. I did still get my schooling, but my mother was sick, and then I had a baby, whatever, like things just changed. But I still worked in law enforcement, but I couldn't leave the prison system necessarily and work for like our local police, because they don't really make any money. And although that's what I wanted to do, so I worked both jobs. That's why I was working in the undercover, and I still worked at the prison at the same time. So that was just like extra money. It was more money, but I couldn't like work only as in the law enforcement.
Right.
So at the time that my dog's barking, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about
At the time that my that I got to a point where I was just like, I really, because I did work on the task force, and I wanted to do what they were doing. I wanted to be an investigator. I didn't want to be just the undercover. Undercover was fun, but I mean, I wanted to do more. So I got, can y'all, or is that really loud?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
No,
You're
you're
good.
good.
Yeah. We can see it.
Okay. So, I started applying actually to everywhere, like the DEA, like all over the place. And I also applied, but I didn't say anything because it's always been my rule. If y'all really want something, I don't say anything to anyone, not even my friends, and tell them what I'm doing, because they will, for whatever reason, they will try to sabotage your plans by either just discouraging you, whatever. And also the only thing you have is a prison system, it becomes kind of like a school. Like it's just like school. So they're gonna try to like keep you back. I was willing to move and everything. So I applied for the promotion. I went to the interview. I had all that background and all these people writing letters for me, from the sheriff's departments that I worked for, because I worked for several. But so I mean, I got the job. I had to move to Miami though. And most people where I'm from, they didn't want to move to Miami. I mean, because we're from the middle of nowhere. But I'm cool because I mean, I can fit in anywhere, and I like people. I like meeting people. So yeah, I was one of a kind there, but I thought it was a cool experience to be the one who was kind of like a minority in this area. But I had so many cool friends. I loved it. And I stayed pretty busy down there as an investigator. But so that's where I started out, is down there. As far as, so the reason why I wanted to promote is because I did my time as a correctional officer, but because of that also, in that small area, unless you leave, you'll never promote because people stay there forever. And I was like, I feel like I'm wasting my brain because I'm really smart and I don't want to just babysit inmates because I can do so much more. And I mean, my sergeants told me the same thing. They would always be like, you're way too smart for this. Like, you really need to, do something and promote or whatever. But I wanted to be an investigator. And so when I realized and I found out what the inspectors did, and that's what they do is investigations. So I applied for that, got it. Everyone was just like, "Oh, what does she do to get promoted?" And I'm like, yeah, all this time I've been working undercover, but mind you, they don't know that because
Right.
I can't tell anyone. They don't know I worked undercover.
So you were doing undercover work as a side gig for extra money. What were some of the investigations that you were doing? Were you like undercover where you just like had to act as somebody else
Yes,
undercover?
I definitely did. I was so on
You
the
ever
undercover side of it, I worked for the
Miami?
drug task force.
Drug
Mm.
task in Miami?
No, this
Oh,
was in where I'm from in North Florida,
okay.
but it is very, very difficult to find um an an efficient undercover officer because most of them either you can tell because they're nervous, or they just don't look the part, they can't play the part. Well, we've talked some on paper and stuff, so I'm an actor anyway. But I guess I was acting, but in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
So it was very easy for me. I fit in, I played the role. I mean, and so it's really hard. So I always joke and say they pimped me out, like all the counties,
Yeah.
because I was good and they couldn't find anyone. But yeah, I had to um like make up a whole nother personality and life. And that was what I had to do. I had to go in and talk to them and be friends with them, hang out with them sometimes for a couple of months.
Did they ever test you to do drugs?
No. And the funny thing is I get that question all the
Smoke
time.
this shit right here if you're not a cop. Like the movies. You gotta test this shit. You need to smoke this shit. I don't think you say who you say you are. You need to smoke this pipe.
Well, I really
Right.
honestly, okay, here's my thing. I do honestly think that if I wasn't so convincing, um, that they may like, I'll tell y'all this story in just a second after I explain this, and you'll get what I'm talking about. So they, I didn't look suspicious and I didn't act suspicious. And but I always worried about that. And I thought in my head, like, what am I going to do? Like, if they do ask. So I had to think these things through in my head, like way ahead of time. I mean, I would constantly think, what if this happens? What if this happens? I was always thinking, like, what would I do if it happened? So most of the time, what they would do, I would actually, I mean, it's funny the stuff I would come up with because they would all be there, like, say, doing the drugs. And they would like when they would pass it to me, I would be like, like I really can't because my boyfriend is, like abusive or whatever. And if I do anything, he'll because by this point, like they feel like I'm a friend of theirs. So they're just like, oh, cool,
Mhm.
don't worry about it. Well, they would get really messed up. And so I would go back like the next day and they would be like, man, that was some good stuff, wasn't it? And I would just agree with them and they wouldn't remember. I mean, so it kind of like
Hmm.
worked out, but a lot of that is because I looked the part and I acted the part because we had this operation one time and that this one female officer who worked at one of the towns or cities nearby, they wanted her to go with me because she really wanted to do it. I was nervous from the get-go because I don't like it because for one, I never wore a uniform. They recruited me for that out of the academy. So I never put on a police uniform. And that makes a big difference because you never know who you're going to run into. And it doesn't matter if it's not in the city that you work because people move around. We all know that. Like you got friends that maybe live 45 minutes away. And
Right.
so they know. So I was very nervous about it. Well, and she was just like I'm saying, she acted like a cop, like she acted suspicious. And I mean, I was one technically, but like the way that she carried herself, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. So
Yep,
they
yep.
send me with her. She's driving, and they sent me to like for where we're from. It's like a really bad area, and she was driving. So of course they approached her side of the vehicle, and she was nervous. Well, I'm trying to talk to them because I know I can talk to them and get in with them. And they got us on this like Ted Bundy looking van anyway. And I'm just like, really? But one of the guys, so it was about, and this always happened because when you're a female, they're all going to come and kind of crowd over you. And one of the younger ones was like, hey, I know her. She's a cop. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is fixing to go south really quick.
Ooh.
And I was like, no, she's not. Like, she's cool. And like, he kept saying, I swear I seen her. She pulled my homeboy over like a month ago. I know. And I was just like, in my head, I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, it's just exactly what I was afraid would happen. But I kept on saying, no, she's cool. And so finally the older guy, he was like, and he was one of the main ones that got busted. He was like, nah, she's cool, man. Just, be quiet, go on, whatever. So I was like, we got out, and when we left there, I was like, don't ever, like, I don't want to go to anywhere else with her because, and don't ever do it again. I'm like, I told y'all, like, this is a bad idea. You can't put anyone with me that's been in a uniform. I don't care where they're from, because that happens. And so that's the only time that ever happened. Thank God they never tried that again.
Now, let me ask you a question. You being in this field, experiencing those things, and probably picking up on the ability and the nature of like breaking down a conversation when somebody's probably lying to you or telling you the truth. How does that affect your personal life, with dictating friendships and relationships?
Well, I always tell people, including my kids and family, I'm like, I have been so trained to do so many things. Like, I, of course, got sent to all kinds of training. I've been to like FBI interrogation schools. I mean, just every type. I'm basically like a human lie detector. Like, I mean, if I can tell when people are lying, and, it drives my family crazy, but I'm like, I can't turn certain things off.
You can't.
I mean, once it's brainwashed in you, it's like you just can't. And on top of that, like, I say that I didn't just go to the training, but like, I was really good at, like, I love being an investigator. I was really good at it. And so like I can't really stop anything that was part of my training. It's just there.
You just have to kind of switch, turn it on, turn it off type of thing when it's time to.
Yeah, I try.
And if she can,
it's
right?
I mean, it really is. I mean, it's kind of like even the defense of driving. Like, it's hard for me. I can't stop. Once you go to like defensive driving school, it's like you learn to look at everything going on, and it's like sometimes I feel like that is like a bad thing, because when you're doing it all the time, because I'm constantly thinking like things are going to happen, but like it's hard to turn it off at the same time. So
look, it's just look, you just have a gift of discernment that's very keen.
exactly, that's part of it too, is also that I have that discernment, and like you definitely can't turn that off.
You can't.
And when you add to it the additional like
psychological thing,
and honing in on it, and really honing in on certain aspects of it, it's like you really can't turn it off. Like, I can read people almost just by their body language before their presence. I can even pick up on if there's something weird about them. Yeah.
And I don't want to take the conversation this way, but so when we met on Favorited, and we had, what was body language conversation like that you probably broke down from our interaction? What did you
when I met you, like, and I always do that. Like I said, I can't turn it off. Like, I mean, it just happens. It's natural. But with you,
because if you,
I thought you were nice.
You're gonna hit certain points. You're gonna hit certain points that I'm gonna be like, you're accurate, and then I'm sure there's gonna be points that I'm gonna be like, that's that's not quite it. But that's why I want to do this. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, what I just pick on basically, like, I mean, the most important thing to me is whenever I meet someone, especially like in boxes like that, when we're talking,
Right.
I quickly pick up, is this person a bad person or a good person? But I picked up on you like a good. I knew that you were not a bad person. So then, the more we talk, I'm like, okay, like I felt like one, you were a very open person and you were very encouraging type person. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I like him. I'm like, he's cool because he's open to helping people when he finds someone he thinks is interesting or creative. Like he wants to help them to, be whatever they're wanting to, like goals that they have. Like you want to help them meet them goals.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was cool.
I love that. I love that. And you hit. You're good at what you do, because if there was anything that you would have thrown at me that I would have been like, that's not quite accurate, I would have said it right here on the show. But you definitely hit every point, and I'm glad we were able to meet you on Favorited, get you on the podcast here as a special guest. Absolutely amazing. Because I'm gonna take what you're giving us here, and the fellas know I'm gonna go in the background and be like, she's fucking incredible. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tell you something, Aki. This is what I was. This because you know how my mind works, Aki, and sir, you as well. When she was having conversations with me on Favorited, I'm like, this woman has no idea the information she has, the experience she has, the being in that other side of the fucking curtain, and then providing that to her audience, what that would look like and feel like. You know what I mean? And I was throwing things at her, and I was like, yo, I think you should try this. And she was like, you know what? That sounds like a really good fucking idea. So, because she can cultivate a phenomenal audience just by the sheer of what she's been through in her personal life.
But look, her having the ability to discern really well, and then being able to play a part in any type of situation because of this right here, automatically should be able to tell you what the type of person she is. So you know what I'm saying, and the fact that she has a great heart makes her amplified at what she does.
Yeah.
And we appreciate stuff like that. We like dealing with those people because it's easier to resonate. We all are in that same space where it's like, okay, yes, you do this, but you do this. You are like this, but you're like this. So I know how to operate when dealing with you. And if I do deal with you, I know how to not take it out of bounds or overstep it. You might not even know I'm analyzing your whole character while we just having a fun conversation.
I can tell.
You have to.
I do the same thing.
You have to.
Beautiful.
We only do it, and this is funny because I know all three of you can contest to this. I analyze body language, and I analyze the nature of a discussion, like the capability of just discussing. And I'll turn it off when I know I'm discussing with an airhead. And I'll leave it on when I'm having a good conversation where I'm just like, yeah, I want to see this person again tomorrow and the next day. You know what I mean? Yeah. So absolutely amazing. Now, I wanted to ask all three of you. We've watched shows like, Murder Mysteries and First 48,
I used to love First 48. I used to watch that all the time.
Listen, Unsolved Mysteries, my wife will fall asleep and I'll stay up to like
that makes me want to go to work. So
I'll be up to like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning watching Unsolved Mysteries. Like, I can't believe after fucking 30 years they still haven't found the body.
Exactly, that's me. And I'm like, man, I need to go work there. I need to go figure this out for them.
BAU, the Criminal Minds Behavioral Analysis Unit, bro.
I love the criminal profiling. It's always been really cool to me.
And I actually hold on to that thought, Ms. Johnson, because me and you are going to have an off-air conversation about another film series idea I have. I've been working on one. They already know I'm working on something called Jahatsu, but I think implementing something of law and crime, and getting it inside, probably as a writer, would definitely be amazing. And, you know, you would be able to, you know, not only throw in your pizzazz a bit, but we'll be able to utilize real life elements that you've experienced and put them into the series as well. And maybe even get somebody to act as your younger self. So something to think about down the line in the near future. But without reading off topic, Unsolved Mysteries, First 48, Law and Crime. What is one particular investigation that you personally did that stood out to you and has always been with you to this day? Like whether you solved it or didn't solve it, what would that be for you?
Oh man, that's a hard one because there were so many. I had definitely some really big cases, but I guess all in different ways, all in different. Personally, I liked, I know it's going to sound weird. I loved doing homicide investigations and like just I love doing the crime scenes. I was more of, and honestly, a lot of the people, other investigators, they didn't like the gory crime scenes, and so they wanted me to go do them. They didn't like doing them. I did not like anything. I didn't like doing the what I called it paper chasing. Like I didn't want to deal with tax fraud, that kind of stuff. I couldn't stand it. So we would like swap it out. And if anything happened and I had to respond, well, I ended up being the crime scene investigator for our region anyway, like later on. But even when I wasn't, they all knew I wanted to go. So I would go and I would end up with those cases. Well, but probably the deepest, the one I think about the most still is, is the one I talked to you about. And the reason why is because, and it wasn't my case alone. There was multiple people working on it because it was so many levels and so many officers involved that were just spread out, and it took a very long time. The FBI and FDLE, everyone was working on it. We helped. But it was at the prison that I was at. And so therefore I had a lot of, I did a lot. And not only did I have to help them a lot, but I had to work there. And this case was like the highest level like of public corruption, because literally the secretary over the Department of Corrections ended up going to prison. But the prison I was working at, they had basically taken it over, and he had put all of his, well, you know, we call it cronyism. So he had put all his cronies there. They're like running the whole prison. Now, mind you, this started like I got promoted and moved to Miami. So I was, and down there when it comes to the office of the inspector general is out of sight and out of mind. Like there's so much happening down in South Florida. And it's just normal because it's South Florida. So, you know, regularly we had like, you know, all the crazy stuff happening. We never had that in North Florida. You never found drugs in a prison there. But I didn't know, because I was too busy with my crazy life down in Miami trying to keep up with them fools because there was so much happening. But when they asked me out of the blue, my husband had come back from Iraq. He never even lived in Miami because he was there. He was still on leave. Like he had just got back from Iraq. And my supervisor called me and asked me if I wanted to move back to the prison I came from, which I should have known that was odd because inspectors don't ever like leave either. And he was there. And so he was like, yeah, he wanted to move back up to North Florida. He didn't want to live in Miami. So when I moved back up there, I did not know that they had taken over this whole region. My dog's going to bark for a minute. I have a bunch of XL bullies and they are loud. But I get there and like this is basically how it happens. I am the prison inspector assigned to that prison. There are 2 senior inspectors that also have offices there. And when I get there, okay, I'm like, I want to catch the bad people. I mean, I don't care who it is, if it's whether it's internal affairs or if it's inmate on inmate. I mean, I was good at my job. I thought that's what I was there for. I'm there to catch the bad person. So the first thing that I realized how bad it was is, anytime we have a use of force, y'all see this all the time with police officers, and big cases that make the news. Anytime that there is a use of force, even in the prison, the protocol, there is video cameras, like in the confinement units and everything. So part of the use of force, they have to do the paperwork and they have to give you the videotape so you can look at the videos and then say this was justified, it's good to go. When I first get there, they're having a ton of use of forces, and I knew they were having them, but I wasn't getting them. And so I go down there because I don't know any better. They didn't tell me, hey, when you get there, by the way, you can't really do anything because it's very corrupt. And, so I don't know. I go down and I'm like, what's going on? I know there's been use of forces. Like, why am I not getting them? And because I went and questioned the colonel, I get a phone call and they're like, hey, like, what's the deal with the use of forces? I'm like, what do you mean? What's the deal? I'm asking them what's the deal. Like, there's a bunch of use of forces, but they are not sending me the use of force tapes or any of the videos. Right. And when I asked, they're like, they don't have them. So I mean, what is going on? You tell me. And this is from central office. They're like, listen, that we got all these investigations going on, and there's really nothing we can do. I'm like, you mean to tell me, like, they have this much power that even you guys are not, like, making them follow the protocol, the rules? Like, they're basically getting away with everything right now. And so that's the way it was, though. So that's why I said that's the case that bothers me the most, because even when I was in the middle of it and helping with all the interviews, and I interviewed officers that I felt bad for them. They broke the rules. Yes, they got fired. But honestly, even as the investigator doing the interview for the FBI agents, because they didn't want to come and do all the stuff. They would me to do a lot of their work because they don't want to be there all the time. So I would feel bad for them, because I would think to myself, like, what would I do in that situation? Because, for instance, here's an example. They were very much into sports at the time. Because of this whole case, the sports got banned and they couldn't play sports anymore. But while they were there, they had basketball, they had softball, and they had football. Well, they wanted to win at everything. So one of the officers who got in trouble was he showed up at work at his institution where he lives and has a family, and it was like 2.5 hours away from the prison that where all this was going down. And they tell him, we got orders, you're to report to this prison over there. And he's like, that's like 2.5 hours away. Oh, what do you mean report? They're like, hey, if you want your job, that's where you're assigned now. Well, he's a good basketball player. That's what they wanted him for, was to play basketball. And so when he gets there, they're like, listen, we need you to play basketball. You don't have to come to work. Just write on your time sheet that you came to work. So for 2 years, he wasn't really even coming to work, but he was getting paid like he was coming to work. But see, he was told to do that. I know that it's wrong, but at the same time, they were going to fire him too. And the people a lot of people did a lot of things that they knew were wrong because they were scared of them. And I honestly, some of the people I didn't feel bad for because they went extra and did a lot of crazy stuff just for dumb things like a promotion or a weekend off. But the ones who were coerced into doing stuff, I felt bad for them because they were afraid of them. Because when I tell you, like, even when they were so afraid of these people, and there's articles that you can look up where they actually like beat people up at parties, like real bad. And these are the high up people, not the little people, but they were so intimidated by them that when I was like, listen, their time is coming, like we got warrants, they're fixing to be, they would not even believe it until it happened. They were still afraid of them.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So that's why I knew then, I said while it was going on, I'm like, the Department of Corrections in Florida will never be the same because they have done so much damage and like so much corruption happened. There were so many people that should have been fired, but it got to the point where they couldn't fire everybody because they had to run the prisons. So they were going by like priority,
Oh,
that's how bad it was.
crazy, Aki,
Yeah.
crazy. And go ahead, sir.
So Callie, so listening to you speak, there was some things I'm detecting. While you're talking, anything that you're saying right now, is this harmful to you and your family or anything? Because while you've been talking, I've been hearing you like you'll say certain words, and I'm like, okay, is she trying to mask what she's saying a little bit? While you're talking, that's what I wanted to know. Because see, in the field that you're in, I know that there are certain things you can say and there's certain things that you can't say.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
one thing
only
I would
saying
always
things that are really public record. Like, I mean, that's why I'm
okay.
saying the things that I'm saying, most of it, yeah, there's some sides of it that wasn't big enough to make the news, but if you wanted to find it out, like it would be public record. But yeah, so that, I mean, and it happened. I mean, I wasn't in a private position. They knew who I was. Like they actually tried to
Absolutely.
intimidate me too, at the time. And, they all went to prison, but yeah, they were trying to intimidate me too. But I did what I was told, and I just assisted the other agencies and did whatever I had to do. Because
You was scared.
truthfully, they told me not to do anything. I wasn't scared of them because I told the one guy, which there's an article, and he was really cocky and arrogant. And what he would do is he thought he was cute. And so like he would come up to me when I first was, and he would try to talk to me. And I told him, I'm like, you don't impress me. And I am here to do a job, and that is what I'm doing. And as much as I can. I'm like, I'm not like, you're not cute to me. Like, because that's what he would try to do. But honestly, he didn't. They were it was just, I couldn't even believe it. Like, I mean, this was one of those things where every day, like things were I would find out things, and I'm like, it was mind blowing, like all the things that were happening and the things that have been going on. And a lot of these people, like I grew up with them, and I was like, wow, like I cannot believe that but then again, it would make you, it's the type of thing that makes you do a lot of deep thinking. And I'm like, for the most part, I think a lot of them, because we are kind of like it's a very rural area. We're very naive, not naive, but like we have not seen anything, most of us. When I went into the military, that's the first time I really even seen Hispanic people and like other cultures. I never even had Chinese food until I went in the military. So like we were so they didn't know what to do with it. These people come in and started putting down on them and like forcing them to do stuff. They were scared. So they just did whatever they were told to do, whether it was, wrong or Like, yeah.
They gonna have to kill me if they gonna have to kill me if they think I'm gonna do whatever the fuck they tell me to do. I'm not the one. You tell me to do. Look, listen, bro. I ain't going.
But see, the thing where it started though was little things like they're, you know, breaking the rules in like in little ways. But then whenever you break the rules in a little way, then they have that leverage on you. And then they start, there were a few that refused to do. And I mean, I'm not even exaggerating when I tell you that they did some of the craziest stuff, like put them on like split shifts, which we didn't even have, but they created it. They're like, well, we're going to make you do like 2 days on midnights and 3 days on evenings, and you're going to have like 2 days off, but there are going to be like one on Monday and one on Thursday.
You can
and like that's the type of stuff they did.
Fuck up my sleeping patterns all you want. Just make sure you
ain't. They did. The couple that did that, they stuck it out, and they were like, "Whatever, I'll do it."
You still got to pay me that overtime check. I clock in, you're gonna have to pay me. But I want to get into this real quick before we get into our intermission. Real Chat Podcast said a lot of time we just don't fight the injustice. The justice system is used so that people are mistreated and rights are being violated to take plea deals. Aki, how do you feel about that? Do you feel that the justice system is actually injustice, that we're mistreated, and all our rights are just simply to be violated to take plea deals?
I'll say everybody's right on this one. Whatever you think is right or whatever you think is wrong, you're right. Because I having family in law enforcement, of course, you get the warning or the update on what to do, what not to do, what's happening, what couldn't happen, what's potentially going to happen. But then also being a victim of the system in a lot of ways. Yeah, everybody's right. The justice system is used to do justice and it's used to do injustice because there's always going to be a loophole somewhere that somebody can do something. I'll say this. As laws are being made and created, or as policies are being made and created, they're always done in a way where something has to you have to give up something to get something to gain something. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's just depending on who's the person operating and running it.
Who's giving and who's taking.
That's my take on it.
I love it, Aki. I love it. Survival skills. Injustice in the justice system, people being mistreated for their rights to be violated and take plea deals. How do you feel about that?
I feel like the judicial system. Yes, it is. It's utilized for those that have already paved the way. I feel like, everything that you have seen when it comes to, I'm always going to say it's always going to be money. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, the rich live a lifestyle that no one can even fathom because there are no rules. These things are like guidelines to them. Yes, these guidelines were placed so therefore we cannot do certain things. But for them, they will always be able to do it. Think about like politicians, the way how politicians operate. Some of the things that they're doing right now, we know it's illegal. We know for a fact that this shit's not right. But for some reason, they're able to go ahead and turn the other cheek and look the other way. Say, for instance, like when it comes to drug deals, how are drugs getting inside of our states? How are they getting past our borderlines? That's because they're being paid. They're paid to look the other way. This is shit that's already happening. It's stuff that stays here. Like, say, for instance, like what Callie said, even like with her own job, there's shit that's happening underneath their nose and they know about it. But you can't say shit about it because what happens when you become a voice of reason, or what happens when you come up there, like say for instance, you become a social influencer and you're up there, they will silence you because you have enough influence to go ahead and move a nation, and that's not something that they want. So there's things that I'm realizing now that when you become a influencer and you get a certain amount of power or leverage behind you, then that's when they try to silence you because, like, bro, you can't fuck up what we got going on. So yes, with the judicial system, I feel like it is a puppet that's always pulling the strings. And it's like either you're gonna play by the rules or hey man, we gotta take you out. So that's
Talking about,
why
no, go ahead. My bad.
that's why I was saying, Callie, when you came up here, I applaud you, dear, because I know for a fact that it's hard for you to talk about these things
Mm,
because I don't know who's behind closed doors that's watching you. I don't know if you're being watched right now. So I know for a fact that it's hard talking about these things.
mm,
And that's why I was going to ask you, like, my next question was more so like, what's your reason? What's more like, what is pushing the envelope for you to do something like this? What is your why, dear?
mm,
I, as far as speaking on the like just the cases and everything, well,
yeah.
one, I feel like it's important. Um, it's not just like interesting stories.
Mhm.
Um, I think there is a level of it, one, where I think that the general public, it is good for them to understand, like on the backside, how things really work.
Mm,
Sometimes because they really, like, I see a lot of times when, you know, when things are happening and it's, something's on the news, another big case, and I see the people talking about it, and I want to just say to them through the screen, like, guys, like, just there is a process to things,
mm,
and like
Mhm.
you just don't understand the process.
Process.
Sometimes they can't, like when they'll say they can't talk about things, people immediately will go to, oh, they just don't want to. Well, no, because they can't. Like you have to get through to certain points,
Mhm.
in the investigation before you can say certain things.
mm,
And sometimes, depending on the situation, it may be a long time before you can talk about. I had
Okay.
cases that I could never talk about. The media would sit outside the office and I would have to sneak out the back door because I couldn't talk to them.
mm,
And I never could. Uh, and that, but a lot of people don't understand that. But on another side, like I was talking to him, we see one side of it, like when you're watching it on TV and you're seeing a case, you don't
Mhm.
like see how it trickles down and affects all the people. Like that one
Yeah.
case that I'm talking about, even right now, there are so many. Like I could be on here for 4 months straight talking about just the cases that extended from those cases, that one major case, because
mm,
that's how bad it was. There was a
Mhm.
steroid ring. There was a bunch of suicides that
Mhm.
happened. There was in one of the articles, the same one where it talks about they arrested two of the main people and they ended up releasing them but they later got charged again for a battery that that happened at like a party at the prison. They hired and he was a minor league baseball player and just to play baseball for them, but
Mhm.
softball, and gave him a job like I was telling y'all they did with that other guy.
Mhm.
Um, he never even came to work, but he got them because whenever they threw his name in when they were all going down, he brought in all the checks. He never even cashed a check.
mm,
Um, but they were because they're like, oh, well, he was getting paid like all this time, so he needs to go down too. Well, he didn't never cash any of them. He had them all, and he gave them right back. So I just think that everybody has a story, and
Mhm.
like a lot of the stories that I can tell, it from one, it just depends on which story, which case. Sometimes it is like a victim that wasn't, you may not see them as a victim until I explain the side of it. Like, when a father makes their 14-year-old child like sell drug or make meth, like they're a victim, really. Like they're doing it, they're committing a crime technically, they're
Mhm.
Mhm.
selling it to me, but they're actually a victim, and because their parents are making them do it.
So,
And
so what you're saying is that most people who have the ability to manipulate another person to do a crime or to not do a crime, just manipulate in general.
well,
They're
and
all,
that's what it really was with the prison system. So whenever you look up the terminology between blue collar crime and white collar crime, Well, the people in the higher ranks, they were white collar crime because they're in positions of authority. So they're using their power to coerce all the officers under them to do whatever they wanted them to do. And there were a few that stood up to them, and they paid the price. Like they got beat up, they lost their jobs. I mean, it was just a lot of crazy stuff. But in the end, they got their jobs back. And then there was a lot of people who didn't stand up to them and they lost their jobs. But I look at them all because I sat in on a lot of the interviews. I interviewed a lot of those people. And even when I'm interviewing them, I'm thinking in my head, man, this is crazy. Like, I feel bad for them because I've always been kind of like intimidated by authority. I don't know what I would do if I showed up to work. I think it was just a God thing. I got promoted and moved down to South Florida right when they were coming and taking over the prison I was at. I never even had to be a part of it, and I'm so thankful for it. But sadly, the inmates were victims too, because during all this time, things were not properly taken care of. Like, for instance, anytime that you're hiring people that don't even really have the sense to be there and be doing this, we had homicides happening at the prisons, which we never really did before up there because they changed everything. There was so much corruption going on and drugs coming into the prison. Anytime there's drugs and cash, there's going to be fights and killings. I mean, that's just going to happen. It don't matter if
drugs were being brought in.
Oh yeah, tons, like a lot of it. Yes,
being brought in by who? By whom? By CEO?
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes some of the higher people. So that was part of what the things they were doing, and it's like, the inmates. If we had a homicide, there was a couple where there was no person called, and it should have been, but the crime scenes were ruined. I had one, by the time I got there, the whole crime scene was completely cleaned up. And I mean, I'm just like, how does this even happen? Like, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that was happening. So, I mean, a lot of people will think, well, the inmates, they're in prison, they have a long sentence. I'm like, but, they've already been sentenced. I'm not saying that I'm like I don't feel sorry for them necessarily, but I do. They're still people. Like, I mean, they deserve they deserve to be treated like humans. They deserve, I always told this to everyone. I'm like, you'll never get respect from an inmate if you're one of them that's out there talking to them very disrespectfully. The reason why I always had respect is because I talked to them with respect, so they respected me. And, but so to me, there was just a lot of injustice with the inmates. They suffered the consequences too, because if anything happened, well, there was a lot of physical abuse going on, but there was no proof of it because remember, they weren't giving me the videos.
Yeah.
Which
in a sense, and we'll go into intermission after this. In a sense, have you ever felt like you were a pawn and a victim in the system as well?
So I was going to answer that question when you were asking that a while ago. So when it comes to the justice system, and this is one of the most frustrating things about it, where you go into law enforcement and like you want to help, like that's where my heart was at. Like, I wanted to catch the bad guy. I wanted to be the voice of the victims. I wanted to see justice, which I'm still passionate about that. Of course, I want justice for everything, but there is always going to be an element of corruption in the justice system. Whether it is because they have money and they can get a better lawyer. We don't see as much as that in the small place where I'm from, But what we do see is the good old boy system. And, you know, like I've had cases where I had a solid case on a person for a public corruption case. I had all the evidence. I had a solid case on them, and it got thrown out because they knew a politician in the area.
Mhm.
And I actually knew that, I mean, the state attorney even told me, he was like, this will not go anywhere. He's like, I mean, I'm with you. I think it should. He was like, I hate it. He's like, but I'm here to tell you that this state representative knows this family, and it's going to get thrown out. They're going to get it thrown out as soon as they find out about it. And they did. And that happened to me more than once, but in one particular incident, I was really mad. Because it was, I just don't like the idea of a person, and I don't care who they are. In this particular situation, this person was I caught them. I got information. I followed up on that information, that tip. I got a K9 unit there. They alerted on their vehicle, and they had a massive amount of drugs that they were going to bring in to the prison. They should have been, if that would have been me, I'd probably still be in prison right now because I don't know nobody like that. And if that would have been any of you guys, that you would have been in prison right now still. Like, I mean, you would have got 25, 30 years for the amount of drugs that he had. And because he was employed, he was going to bring it in. And I'm like, but he got away with it because he knew somebody.
Crazy.
And I'm like, and I'm just like, wow, that, because it was a lot.
Wild. With that being said, we're going to get into this quick intermission, about 10 minutes. Take your smoke break, your drink break, your bathroom break. This is Law and Crime, 5 wild Charlie Kirk assassination conspiracy theories. And when we come back, we're going to finish off the show, about 40 minutes left, with Miss Johnson about the DOC, the Corrections Department Regional Director, who was guilty of taking kickbacks. We'll be right back after this brief intermission.
Authorities say they've got the man who shot and killed political activist Charlie Kirk on the campus of Utah Valley University. Because as the frantic search was ramping up, there has been a lot of chatter and misinformation and theories surrounding Charlie Kirk's death. We're taking some time to discuss some of these theories that have been spreading quite quickly online and in the media, as well as brand new information on the suspect. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Federal and state authorities in Utah say they have arrested the gunman, the man who allegedly took the life of political activist and media personality Charlie Kirk, identifying him during a news conference this morning as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who actually, by the way, lived hours away from Utah Valley University. But authorities say he is the man. They say he is the one who brought a bolt-action rifle to the top of a campus building and fired one shot at Kirk, who, by the way, was speaking in this debate-style event in front of thousands of people. That bullet, and I'm sure you've seen the videos, that bullet hit Kirk in the neck. He was rushed to a hospital, but the married father of 2 young children was pronounced dead at just 31 years old.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
Robinson, he was taken into custody around 10 p.m. He was booked into jail. According to FBI Director Kash Patel, after surveillance images and video of this suspect was released to the public, they received thousands of leads. While he said that they're going to follow up on all those leads, even though there's an arrest, there are still so many theories about what happened here. And you wonder, is it really going to quiet that conversation? We're talking misunderstandings. We're talking misinformation. We're talking up conspiracy theories, general theories. That is what we want to get into right now, because even with someone in custody, a lot of these theories, I wonder, will they continue to circulate? you know that there's going to be people who say, oh, this is just the fall guy. There's something bigger here. Maybe there's other people involved. Now, you know, we've been on top of the story from the very beginning, and we are able to do that because of the incredible support that we get from our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. This is a firm with over 1,000 attorneys. You know why they're so big? Because they win a lot. They have recovered over $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. Think about that. In the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. Out in Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurer's $650,000 offer. You have another client in Pennsylvania who received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. And even if you think your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not just start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan, they make it so simple. You can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC sidebar by clicking the link below or scanning the QR code on screen. So I want to start with the shooting itself. This is a big one. You probably saw this too. The white hat guy, right? Let's take a look.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Now, you see him standing behind Charlie Kirk. So it appears that he touches his hat, then his ear, and then it's followed by a guy right next to him in black who puts his arm out and touches it. Now, that appears to be one of Charlie Kirk's security members. And then right then, that is when Charlie Kirk is shot. So the theory is, were they signaling the shooter? That is a conversation that has been happening online. I mean, look, it is strange and it is weird that out of all topics and out of all times for Kirk to be shot, he's talking about gun violence, talking about transgender people being shooters, and the last word he says before he's shot, the word is violence. It's creepy. It's chilling. It's strange. Now, I will say, it appears when you look at another video, another angle, those two individuals, when the shot is fired, they look legitimately shocked. I think there's an argument there. They seem to be surprised by the gunfire. And the argument is, right, they're actually in the line of fire too. Now, it does bring up something else. It brings up the issue about whether or not multiple people could in fact be involved. We heard what President Donald Trump said on Wednesday.
My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country.
I actually asked former CIA and FBI agent Tracy Walder about this before the arrest of Robinson. Take a look. Do you think this is a situation where it was one person acting alone, or do you think it was coordinated and there was some help? I mean, we don't know at this point. I've seen a lot of people talking online about what may or may not have happened. From your perspective, we talked about how it might have been planned. Would you suspect that there could be multiple people involved?
So I think so, but not in the sense that you may think, Jesse.
Okay.
So what I actually think is there are these, well, they're from Telegram subchannels, those kinds of things on social media where individuals talk about this kind of thing and talk about this kind of violence. So I 100% think that there were individuals in this chat room assisting this person, goading this person on, wanting them to do it, because that absolutely exists in this internet subculture. So that's where I think these accomplices came from, and that's what ultimately needs to be shut down.
Got to talk about something else with the shooting too. So there are certain angles of the shot where there is a belief that Charlie Kirk was shot in the chest, but the bullet ricocheted off of what people believe was him wearing a bulletproof vest, and then it struck him in the neck. Now, according to the BBC, neither the FBI nor Turning Point USA, which Kirk co-founded, neither confirmed whether he was wearing a vest that day. It is interesting, though, because the Daily Mail spoke with Chris Herzog, who is apparently the owner of the Bodyguard Group of Beverly Hills, a private security firm. Herzog claims he spoke with Charlie Kirk during a rally at California State University several months before and warned him that he would be killed at one of these rallies or events unless he took the proper precautions. Now, Herzog's colleague, Mark Wilson, also claims that he spoke with Kirk, telling the Daily Mail, we're huge Turning Point fans, being conservatives, and we discussed And we discussed the lack of security because he's up close with these nutcase kids and doesn't appear that he even wears a bulletproof vest. It's super sad what has happened. However, based on the reporting, based on the analysis, it does seem, by most indications, that he was shot directly in the neck. Actually, again, here is what Tracy Walder had to say about that.
I think we want to think that this is some kind of a trained assassin. You know, maybe we see that in movies, and that's something that we want to see. But the reality is a 200-yard shot, which is about what this is. Again, I don't have the exact data, but a 200-yard shot. I believe he was probably aiming for the head, came in a little bit low, but again, I don't know for sure. This is someone who is familiar, obviously, with weapons. There's no question. I don't think if you've never held a weapon before, you would be able to do that. But this is someone that probably had a scope attached, had been sitting there for a few minutes, got the target in their sights, and got off that shot. So I think it's someone who is moderately to highly familiar with weapons, but not some kind of a trained assassin. Now, if you were talking about 600 yards or more, sure. But I don't feel that that's far enough for this to be some kind of a sharpshooter.
Okay, now I want to move on to this next theory. There is obviously a lot of political high tensions brewing with narratives being pushed that this was a left-wing extremist. I mean, right-wing influencer Mike Cernovich posted on social media that the shooter, quote, was an ideological foot soldier of far left-wing billionaires. Again, this is before the arrest of Robinson. And as reported by outlets like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, there was a preliminary and unverified report that the rifle found in a nearby wooded area, right by the crime scene, had been engraved with statements that, quote, express transgender and anti-fascist ideologies. In fact, here's what officials, though, had to say about those apparent engravings during Friday's news conference.
The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this?" ? Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, !" catch, ! Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
And by the way, during that news conference, it was also suggested that this suspect, Mr. Robinson, had said recently that Charlie Kirk was coming to Utah Valley University, that he didn't like him, that he didn't like the viewpoints that he had. This is something Robinson allegedly expressed, and that he had told a family member that Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. Now, it went both ways when you look online. There were also those, even before Robinson was arrested, who actually thought that the shooter could be a far right-wing extremist. So you saw these kinds of theories on both sides. The bottom line is we don't know yet the exact motive. However, killing a very political figure like Charlie Kirk at this speaking event, right as he's talking about these topics, it's something you got to be.
It's something you have to be thinking about. If you want to watch more of that, look up 5 wild Charlie Kirk assassination conspiracy theories. It's about 10 minutes left, more of that video. But we're back.
Good morning, Greg Ford. That's how we're going to start it off.
That's how we're going to start it off.
How we going to start it off? Somebody is definitely watching a clip. That must have been the Canelo fight. Sound like somebody got upset off of one of their bets at the Canelo fight. Shout out the boy that Canelo was going against. The boy's going to be something special. But we have the amazing Miss Johnson here, Clono Queen, everywhere on social media. You know, she has been in this space for many, many years, has retired, and decided to enjoy her children while reading body languages on Favorite. and
Hey, I
break
do
it.
still do stuff, you know, like I'm a chaplain and I do disaster relief and stuff like that.
I love that.
Cool.
What are some of your hobbies?
Well, you know, I'm a performing artist, so I am part of a big theater company, which my kids are in that too. I play music, hike, I travel a lot. But I am a chaplain, so I do disaster relief, and I have a jail ministry. I go in and speak to women in jail,
Wow.
um, and you know, I do speak to them while they're in, and then I try to connect them with resources when they get out.
Love that.
Oh, that's
Dope.
beautiful.
That's dope.
Love that. Absolutely amazing. Love that. Love that. So we have this particular case, and you sent me this link to this particular article. Before we dive into it, what was it about this case? Was it something close to you? Was it something that was happening in the area that you used to work in? We're going to go into the prison chief, James Crosby, pled guilty to a federal charge of accepting kickbacks from a contractor, according to court documents filed on Wednesday. Crosby and former Correction Department Regional Director Alan Clark are accused of accepting over $130,000 from a contractor over a 2.5-year period, ending this past February, according to documents filed in the U.S. District Court. What was it about this case that was close to you?
So that is the case. And Crosby was the secretary of the Department of Corrections at the time. He was a top person. So now you know that means that a large percentage of the people in high positions were also not only corrupt, but also they were put there over people who were qualified, you know, like they were just put in positions. And it really, that's why I said that's probably like the biggest one that I still think about, because so many people like got in trouble. Like it was just mind blowing, honestly, to think I'd never seen anything like that. Like, and had to be a part of the investigation. But that's why I sent that to you, so you could kind of get an idea of like, they were the head, but that's just them two. There was way more than them that got in trouble. And to be honest, what we're talking about, you see the charges that they got, that was kind of like a plea deal thing, because there was so much more than that. But they worked it out. I mean, of course they have lawyers and stuff, so they work it out, and they end up getting the charges for taking kickbacks and embezzlement and things like that. But they were definitely guilty of like a lot more stuff than that.
Wow.
It was actually, that's why I was saying I should write a book about it, because there was so many things that like only people who were like part of it or like there, like know what happened. But I mean, it down to basically, I mean, I hate to say it this way, technically or legally, that is what it is, prostitution, because they're like trading people out for favors and stuff.
Now, a lot of these doings that's occurring, right? And the plea deals that they're getting because of the relationships, the money, the connection.
Well, the plea deals actually come, they agree to it because they get good lawyers, and the lawyers talk back and forth, and, like they just end up saying, hey, for a person who was running a whole Department of Corrections, getting, 5 or 7 years in federal prison, that's kind of like, a big deal. I was happy he got something, because I'm telling you, the people didn't think he was going to get anything. They were convinced he would not get in trouble at all, because they believed that they were untouchable.
It's mind-boggling to me. I'm not surprised, but it makes me weary and untrusting to want to deal with blue collar or white collar. It makes
But
me
you
not.
know, to be honest, that situation should have never happened. Like, I mean, it was basically like, I mean, it honestly probably is really a historical thing, because I don't think that other people, I don't think that could happen again and be replicated. They were basically like a mafia running the Department of Corrections. And the way it all happened, and just like, I don't think it would ever happen again. I don't think, I mean, if I couldn't believe it. And, but that literally, they were like a mafia.
They watched a lot of Scarface and Godfather.
Well, and you know what's really weird and really weird about it is, and some of this, now this is me, because of course, I had a ton of investigations going on. It becomes so much information that you're just like, you have to end the investigation and charge people at some point, because if like you keep digging, you're just going to keep finding more and more stuff. Part of the investigation, when I was working on helping with this, there was a particular inmate that followed them everywhere, and I knew that they were protecting him too. And I'm like, there's some connection. And they're like, oh, you're actually gonna like search his stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna search his stuff because I can, and I'm not afraid of them. I'm gonna do it because no one would ever do it. So when I searched his stuff, and I'm sitting there going through everything, like reading everything, because I knew I'd already listened to the phone calls. I knew there was something weird going on, and they knew each other outside of prison. But the one connection I found was that inmate's father. They're from the Jacksonville area, but like they had a lot of money. His father was like, he had a lot of money. And all of them and his father were all in this big Masonic lodge in Jacksonville. And strangely, his case, he had gotten in trouble. And of course, like I said, I mean, I keep investigating. Like, I mean, I look up everything. So I kept digging, and I dig into his crime and the victim, whatever. And the woman who was the victim happened to be years before that in a relationship with one of the main people. And so I was just like, oh, this is wild. Like, I mean, you couldn't believe, I'm like, this never stops. This is just like, these people have been doing all of this crazy stuff and just getting away with it for who knows how long.
Are Freemasons corrupt?
Well, the ones I know are.
Not all of them are, but they have, some of them practice certain things that.
And I really think that the bigger it is, the bigger like that one in Jacksonville has a lot of people with a lot of money. And I mean, by nature, they're secretive anyway. And so you have to know that if you're combining power and money and secretive, I mean, there's gonna be dirty things happening. I mean, that's just asking for it.
There's a scripture that says we wrestle with not the flesh and blood, but people in high places. I mean, that scripture alone says it. There are people in high places, high places in your mind, the thoughts, ideas, and on a spiritual sense. But then, like as you witnessed, Ms. Callie, there are people in high positions that that we have to wrestle with because they're able to maneuver and play the field. They see the whole board and they're putting things in position, so therefore they can stay untouched, Nobody knows.
Yeah,
In order for you
there's
to go to
people
find me.
in those places that are driven by like a demonic force, and they're going to do like bad things.
Wait,
And
are you saying that? Are you getting to what I think you're getting to, where you are considering the idea that all of these things that you've seen and have experienced, that a majority of these people in positions of power, high authority, are practicing demonic things.
well, whether they understand it or not, I mean, I just know that everything is spiritual. We see in the physical realm, but everything is spiritual. And
Mm,
anything bad is demonic. It's demonic spirits that is doing this.
mm,
And that's exactly what that scripture he quoted is talking about. We wrestle not with the physical, we wrestle with it's spiritual things that we wrestle with. And that's why it also says that the weapons that we have to fight with are not physical weapons, it's spiritual weapons that we have
You
to
don't need
fight
a
back
gun
with.
for this. You don't need a gun for this type of war.
Yeah, like all of the
mm,
things that are happening, you can talk about gun safety or gun rights and all that all you want to, but that it's a sin problem. It's a heart problem
mm,
because I joke about it, but it's the truth. People will talk about guns, and I will tell my kids even when we have the discussion, I'm like, listen, the
mm.
truth about it is it's a heart problem. If people want to kill somebody, I've seen them do it with a chicken bone in a
Right.
prison.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna find something. They're gonna do
Yes.
it. Like it don't
Yes.
matter. They're gonna find a way to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And that is the problem. It's not the weapons. It is the people's hearts is the problem.
right. No,
Yeah.
that's facts because we and I brought that up only because I really into that. I study and I do my spiritual uh gathering, my spiritual gathering and gaining when it comes down to that, because as I've always, as a kid, I never understood it, but I've always been able to see things from that perspective without really understanding what I was actually paying attention to. And as I got older and more involved into spirituality and studying different scriptures, language, and things like that, I started to realize that everything is spiritual first before physical. So because of the fact that we have a balance of and free will, we have the free will. Opposition is always going to be there. Opposition is always going to present itself in a place, no matter where it's at. Corruption is going to be there. Do we want it? No, but it's going to be there. The choice is of the individual's personal heart, whether they want to involve themselves in the corruption or fight against the corruption. Those is choice, and that's what you're getting at, Miss Callie. Is like we're gonna deal with those. There are people always put in a position where they are put in that position to be able to be an example and to be that force that if you only the chosen ones who are able to withhold and withstand that can go up against it. And because they go up against it, now they have the full protection of the full truth and spirit behind it, and they'll be the ones to expose it, because we all are here to be an example of good or bad. We're all here to be an example to somebody else of what to do and what not to do, what could have been done, or or what should have been done. And that's the reason why we have these type of conversations, is because, see, as we all have seen, we have grown into a level of, you wouldn't believe things like this happen, but as you start to see and watch in your experience now, you start to realize, oh, these things are actually happening. How do I maneuver and get and go through this process without it affecting me, because I know what my intention and my heart is and where I'm trying to go, and a lot of times that's what you have to fall back on and be more honed into, because we're just gonna have it. I had to reference this lady, school teacher, no, excuse me, she's a traffic director. she was coming and expressing certain things to me, and it was her, out of her frustration, she had said that. And I had just quoted another scripture, because in my opinion, this is a moral and an ethic that I not only see, but can adhere to, and I truly understand it. You know, there's a scripture in there that says that I created the dark and I formed the light. I make alive and then I kill again. I do all of these things. Well, when I said that to her, it actually dawned on her. Then she kind of got it, like, oh wow, so you mean to tell me that there's this? I'm like, yeah, you have both. You have to deal with the both, because if you don't deal with the both, what you don't realize is, when you're having this conversation, if I started talking ill towards you, or I don't like you and I don't like your manner, well, I'm physically not killing you, but I'm spiritually killing off your whole character. So therefore I had to, you know what I'm saying, I'm doing something that's going against what I really want. But then here it is, then we have a conversation. Instead of me killing off your character, now you are able to form the light around what you're trying to say. And now therefore I get the understanding now of your perspective and what you're seeing, because a lot of times that's what we don't. We all are the darkness to somebody else's light, which then they shine upon us, or we shine upon them. So therefore we expose certain things, and sometimes that's just what needs to be happening. And you, Miss Callie, have been a staple in just that within this whole last 2 hours of telling us that, of showing us where you were a light in a dark situation, but you were shining yourself on and opening up all of these different things, to where it was just like, whoa, I didn't even know that was happening in the darkness. And yes, that is what was happening. So that's
let me ask you a question. How do you, I don't want to always find ourselves and our families and our children and the people we love when we're gone, still navigating evil for the purpose of evil. Because we know there's always going to be good and bad. There's always going to be the yin and the yang. It's the only way the world operates. It's probably our purpose. Yes. Now having the conversation, right? It's probably our purpose, fight off evil. But how does somebody like Ms. Johnson, and I'll ask both of you, starting with Aki and then Serve, how do we negate or fight when it sounds, these last 2 hours, and it feels like these last 2 hours, she's presented to me the idea that people in position of power and influence and money are not only rooted by evil, but are evil. Where are the good people at? Where are the superheroes? Why?
Well, they can be. I'm not saying they all are, but I'm just saying it only takes, like, when you have, like, you got to be careful who you get into positions, because it only took, in that situation, it only took that one bad person to be the leader of the whole department. And then he moved in all the other bad people that he knew was bad. He promoted them. He moved them in. I mean, some of them he promoted from CO all the way up to captain, then colonel. Like, I mean, unheard of. He just did what he wanted to.
So it takes one bad seed to
be the big leader, and then they're going to put everybody else where they want them.
I'll say this, and this goes to the story of Adam and Eve, and I use this because this is what I know. Eve was presented with a story, and Adam and Eve was told not to eat of the tree of good and evil because you will die. And then Eve was told by the serpent that if you won't die, you will just know good and evil. And so there you had that one thing, that was the one thing that changed that whole perception, was you will not, that was the seed, the NOT, that was the seed that was dropped in there, boom, and said, here, this is what'll actually happen. And what that meant was you would die to your ability to understand the difference between good and evil. Because if you're only being taught good or life and what allows you to live, and then you get told what something can look like, potentially die, what happens when you could die, you get that impression on your mind. Now you have that thing to harp on or think about, or that you can consider. And if you start considering it, then you start leaning into the consideration, which then allows more ideas to come and flood, which then provokes and invokes the emotion, which then gives you the action to do something. So that is, yeah, that is pretty much how that works. So again, all it takes is just a small tiny bit of influence or power or money in order for that things to happen. And you
Well,
can't
and
go ahead, Miss Callie.
oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'll add on to the tricky thing about that deception is, like he was saying on that story. So this is how the devil works and how he deceives people so easily, because really they knew from the beginning that, hey, you can have this, everything you want, but not the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because if you do, you'll die. Well, they had that information, but what the devil did was focus on, what did he say? Well, she only focused on the part of, he said, well, die. And he's like, no, you won't die, like, because she's thinking immediate death. That's all she's focused on, because God had already said the tree is the knowledge of good and evil, and you'll die. But he just didn't say exactly how it would happen, because he didn't, he wanted them just to obey. Like, don't do it. You'll die if you do. I mean, whatever. So she just focused on, and so he went on that and was like, "What? You won't die." So when she takes a bite, then she didn't die. So she's like, we're good, I mean, but they weren't good. Things immediately changed.
Exactly. And that's why I said it's all we learned and in our studies that it wasn't a physical death, it was a spiritual death. Your ability to understand things. You die from you being able to discern what is good and good, because if you're being told this is good, you're knowing anything opposite of what you've already been told is bad already. Because if you're saying this is what, anything opposite of that is going to be opposite of it. But then what you have now is the ability to now choose. Oh, now that I understand what the opposite is, it's even more crucial that I choose to do this side anyway, because now that I know what can happen over there, do I want that to happen is now should be your question. And that is basically what that was insisting on, is like, now that you did that, this is what's going to happen to you. And then this is how it's going to pretty much play out, because you did that. And you're always going to have that ability to know you can always fall back to that. You can always fall back to being corrupt, because you understand what corruption is now, versus not even worrying about it and thinking about it. So it was never a thought in your mind to do.
So in this current climate, let me ask you this, and we'll wrap it up on this. Serve, can you turn a good guy or a good woman? Can you turn a good person into a bad person? Can you turn a bad person into a good person?
I believe you can. I mean, like, under certain circumstances, you can do that. Basically, hey, let's just go ahead and look back on times we've seen. Everyone starts off with an idea. Everyone is going to start out with an idea. It's just that, how are you going to go about it? So, like, for example, I'm going to use BMF. So let's talk about with BMF. If you remember, when it came to Big Meech and it came to his brother Terry, they got influenced because of the fact that they saw a guy that was driving around in a Cadillac car. They were influenced off this because of the fact that they saw their parents struggling, trying to give them a better life. So what did they do? They hopped into the drug game to go ahead and do this. In the process of doing it, they became better along with it, because see, now they're seeing like, yo, we can go ahead and touch money that these folks are talking about touching within 2 weeks. We touched it in just a few days. So why on earth would I go to work when I can go ahead and do this right now? So what did Big Meech end up doing? Big Meech influenced his brother, and he turned him into a bad guy. Because see, now it's like, yeah, you're getting these things, but look at what you have to do to get this. This is hurting other people. This is causing blood. This is causing mischief. This is hurting the community. So now where's the community thinking? Okay, well, your son gave these drugs to my kids. So now my kids, they end up dead. And then all you all are doing is tossing a birthday party or a get well, like, a funeral to say, hey, we'll cover the expenses because, we did this to his family. That's not enough. So yes, you can influence a person to turn bad. You can influence a person to do good. At some point in time, you have to ask yourself, what is this all for? Even what Callie had mentioned, some of the people that were influenced through this, they had something to gain out of this. There was a personal gain. Now, along the way of them influencing these people, they maybe say, like, hey, this is a come up. I can help out my family. But here's the thing. Once you step foot in that domain, you may not be able to exit. There is no exit strategy. And we've all seen these videos and these movies. Like, what's the way to exit? Because you've seen too much. We got to silence you. There is no you gonna leave. No, we gotta silence you because like you can't leave the same way you get. Like what you talking about Jiatsu, you gonna have to disappear. Ain't no coming back, bro. You can't live the lifestyle that you were living because see now you know too much. So it ain't no, oh yeah, hey, we do blah blah blah. And if that's the case, it's either you or we taking your family. So
Are
which
we
is
are we saying that Robin Hood did something bad as stealing from the rich, which the action of stealing is bad, but he did a good deed by giving it to the poor?
he gave it to the poor, but here's the thing. What happens when the poor think that this person is always going to give to them? They're always going to have their hand out. Now they're not going to go and even believe that, hey, I have to do this. If I'm always thinking Robin Hood's going to go ahead and give to me, why on earth would I have to work? It goes back to my terminology when I said this. It's funny how when you give people stuff for free, they don't want it because it's something's wrong with it. But then when you put a price on it, it's oh damn, it costs too much. Give me a discount. Please, somebody help me understand that. Like, let me go. Like, please help me understand it. We can get free game right now. I can go ahead and give you all free game right now about credit. I can give you free game about talking about what forex or stock market. Then as soon as I go and put a price on it, it's a problem. Like, oh no, man, I can't pay for that. When I was offering it for free, you didn't even want it. So please help me understand that. Like, boy.
I love it.
I think we all want to understand that one, man.
Listen, I love it. I love it. Aki, can you turn a good person bad? Can you turn a bad person good?
My answer would be no. You can influence them to turn good or influence them to become bad. Initially, they have to make the choice themselves. I wouldn't be if I had that much power to turn people good or bad. I'd be a corrupted person because that would be the most that you would want to do that. You would want to always do that because you would want it to always end in your favor. If I have the ability to make you good, boom, you'd be the person that can stop me. I have the ability to make you bad. You'd be the person that listens to me and go do everything, and I wouldn't get in trouble for it. You'd be my fall person, the front guy. So I don't think anybody has that much power, but like I said, we have enough power of influence to make somebody good or bad. That part right there.
Powerful stuff. Powerful. Miss Callie, can you turn a good person bad? Can you turn a bad person good?
I will say this much because I've seen a lot of stuff. So I do think that all of us, well, because we're human, we all have a part in our heart where we all have the same desires. Like we really do. That's why the Bible says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, because we need money, we need things, but the difference is like there's people that are more willing to do bad things to get it. And then there's a lot of us who will just work ourselves to death to get everything that we get, which is, the right thing to do is to work. But I also say, when you are like, at one time, I mean, I was never, even when I was like wild, I was never a corrupt person. I could never do mean, like bad like that. I couldn't. But when you get to a point where like nothing is like, you feel like unsettled in your spirit because you're doing all that you can, but you feel like there's still something missing, like more. I just feel like that has to be a spiritual thing. I think that, God is the only one who can make people have that in them where they finally feel like I've got to do something different. I've got to get more like, yeah. I mean, that's the only way you can change better, like, and do better. If you're a person, well, in any instance, like I never, I mean, I always had the desire to help people, but whenever I slowed down and which, like I said, I mean, I grew up in church. I mean, I always, to an extent, like he was saying, before I even, just like started really living as a Christian, I still had the gift of discernment. I still do, like from a kid, like I had dreams, I seen stuff, like I just didn't really understand it. But I always had that something in me missing, like, and I longed for it, but I didn't understand it. But whenever I started living like a Christian, well, then that just made me even better. Like then I wanted to do more stuff to help more people, and I don't even get paid for it. I mean, I'm self-funded. Like I pay for all my stuff that I do. So I don't even do it to gain anything other than I want to help people like change, and I want them to have the means to do better. I want to help them after they've been hurt or whatever. That's my motivation, is to be a light in the world. It's not even money anymore.
Love that. Love that. Where can everybody find you, Miss Chrono Queen? Where are you most active on, and what is your username?
Well, I did tell you when we read the first time that I am going to start a podcast. Remember, because I said, you were like, "Oh, I have one," and you should come on, and I'm like, "Good, that will give me some experience." So I have a YouTube. That's what I'll do. The podcasting. I'm going to learn from you guys. I'm going to learn some stuff from you first. No, but my YouTube is just talking garbage with Callie Johnson. And then I'm Clona Queen on Favorited. I'm Clona Queen on TikTok, and I'm by my regular name on Facebook is just Callie L. Johnson, and Instagram is just talking garbage.
Just talking garbage. Let me see if I can find you on IG.
I like that.
Because that's going to be the name of my podcast. It's just talking garbage.
I love it.
I'm a storyteller. That's what I do a lot of on like TikTok. Is I tell a lot of stories. When I have a crowd on Favorited, I tell stories because I can tell better stories there.
I love it.
You know what I mean? I don't have to sit there and talk in code.
I love it. I got you.
By the way, have y'all? One thing I have noticed, and I have been so disturbed by this, and I've been that person the past few days. Every time I see the videos of just like people talking crazy stuff on TikTok, I just keep on commenting on all of them. I'm like, I want to know why they can misinterpret my Southern accent and I get violated, but these people are sitting there saying the wildest and most violent stuff, and they're just not even doing anything to them. This is bias.
That's the corruption. That's the corruption.
And I'm calling it out on every single one. I'm like, this is not right. I have to sit there and talk, basically learn a whole new language of code.
Listen, I love it, fellas. I love it. Absolutely amazing episode. If there's one thing you could take from this episode, sir, what would it be? What would you tell the chat right now?
I think it was a saying by Awalim. He said, "Nothing is true, all is permitted." And that saying, when he said that, the meaning behind it means that you, like Dewan said earlier, you have to have a level of discernment. everything that you see in this world, it has some type of substance. Like there is something that you can dissect from it. There's something that you can learn from it. God puts us through these tests because a lot of us will say things like, oh man, we go through these things, and we kind of get troubled by them, and we wonder why did it happen to us. Well, it had to happen to you, so therefore you can grow through what you go through, as they say. So you have to learn from that. And what I got from this episode was that there are going to be some people in this world that are going to do some wicked things. They're going to do some wicked things, but they have their reasons for doing them. Now, is it right? May not always necessarily be right, but to my understanding now, JR, the real people that's living life are the ones that's living brave. It's you really live life when you're living bold. Like,
Mm.
life that you want to live comes from the brave and the bold. And,
I love
even from like the drug dealers that I've seen the drug dealers do more for their communities than I see the own damn system. And why was that? Because they saw so much being done to their people.
Mm.
So,
Love that.
That's something to go and talk about.
Love that. Love that. Sir. Love that, sir. Before I get to Aki, one thing I could take from this episode is I resonated with Serve when he said, "What is your why?"
Mhm.
That resonated with me, and I'm gonna take that, go on the back end, and sit down and start writing down what is my why. Because sometimes I feel like we're so on the go, right, with just the nature of the way life is currently, right, our responsibilities and what we have to navigate and do our best to control and maintain, that we forget our why. And I think once we jot down our why or whys, we would be more inclined to be more efficient and proficient, if that makes sense. Aki, what's one thing that you could take from this episode today?
The episode.
The episode.
The episode is the one thing.
You didn't even know we was going to do something like this today, did you?
No. I have so much.
Aki. That's what, Aki, I love you so much, bro. He deals with my nonsense. I never tell him a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance. I don't even give him 48 hours in advance. I give him 2 hours. I send him the link. I tell him it's blue collar crime, judicial system. All he sends me back is, Aki, don't worry. We got this shit. Fucking love you.
It's one of the things that I love you too, because I have a friend. I really wish he can connect with us, but in his own timing, he wants to be an actor, or not wants to be, aspires to be. He's done films, commercials, TV, and things like that. But with him, he helps keep me on my improv. Like, I know how to just simply sit, read the room, and then acquiesce and adjust. Sometimes that is just my thing, where I enjoy living on that bold side, because I was like, I don't know what I'm about to do, but the spirit is guiding me, so we about to have some fun, right? You know what I mean? But from what taken from the show, this was a really great episode, and the one thing that I definitely take from it is what we spoke to just a few moments ago, when it comes down to just dealing with a system injustice and justice. How does it work for you? You have to really find your own way and how to do it. It's the system of the judicial system is just what it is it's about judicial things, justice, whether that's injustice or not. You know what I mean? It is what it is. However, my thing is you having your real ability to just discern and staying true to your heart and who you are and what you want, your why, like you say, Aki. Everything happens for a reason, and it doesn't just happen because it's supposed to happen. No, there's things that just really truly are going to be the net effect of life and the energy that is out there and the things that happen. If this conversation wasn't needed, we wouldn't have been having this conversation at all. But it was a need. The timing of the conversation was the main why. Why did it happen? Why did it have to happen around this time? Well, look at the things that had just took place. Why wouldn't it be a good time to have this type of conversation?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I take from the show. I love this show.
Appreciate it, Aki. Miss Johnson, before we let you go, what's one thing that you can take from this episode, whether you provided or received?
I mean, I think that it's a good thing always to like be able to sit down and like just learn from each other, like whatever the experiences are. Anytime that we sit down and we are talking, we can all learn from each other, whether I'm saying something and y'all are hearing these things for the first time, but your response I can pick up on and learn something from like the things that I did a lot of talking myself today. But there's one thing I always think back. I have a really good friend, one of my favorite state attorney investigators that I worked with. Well, actually, he was an attorney, not an investigator. He was a state's attorney in Miami. And when I went into his office the first time, he was helping me on a big public corruption case in South Florida. And he had this really cool scale, a statue. It was unbalanced scales. And I thought it was the coolest thing because, so I went over and I asked him about it while he was working on some paperwork. And he told me, he was like, yeah, I always keep this here. It always reminds me that the scales of justice are always out of balance. He's like, we can be the ones to try to bring balance, but the scales of injustice the scales of justice are always out of balance.
You just fucked up my whole. She took what's already a lot and just went crazy. Man, what an amazing episode, Miss Johnson. I look forward to connecting with you back on Favorited this upcoming early week. Survival Skills, OTL Dewan Aki. I appreciate you, brothers, always for your guidance, love, support, and hosting abilities. This was an amazing episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, repost, hit the subscriber button, hit the notification button. Look out for Just Talking Garbage everywhere. The podcast, because you never know, you might see me ONTL serve on the podcast talking garbage.
Yeah, you got a lot of I know there's some garbage out there, some hot garbage, man.
I just like to talk about everything. I want to talk to people about everything. That's what I like to do. I like to learn. That's exactly what I want to do on my podcast, is have people from all different backgrounds or whatever and talk about everything.
Love it. Love to hear it.
I can't wait to hear it. Hope that I do pray that it becomes as successful as you would like it to be.
Absolutely. With that being said, you guys already know I'll see you guys next week, Sunday, same time, same place. Again, protect your mind, protect your peace, and stay blessed, everybody. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Thank y'all.
Mm-hmm.